All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 45. The show planning has ended, so it's time to start the show. I am pleased to be one of your three hosts for tonight. My name is Josh Allen. I'm the Tech Integration Specialist at Lewis Central on the south side of Council Bluffs. I have a wonderful wife and three wonderful kids, one who turns 8 here shortly. I guess we might have a couple shows before that happens, but seems to be coming up rather quickly. Excited to be here and excited for Patrick Larkin tonight. It's going to be a fantastic show. Looking forward to it. Pleased, as always, to be joined by Claire. Do you want to start?
Okay. I always is your name.
Claire, get through it. This is
okay. Is your name
episode 45, Claire? Come on.
Technology noob. Kickoff instructional technology coach.
Yes, good. That's good. That's it? That's all you're doing tonight? All right. Peace out. All right.
Bye.
See you later. Wow. I'll take care of this one. You go ahead.
Sorry.
All right.
I am not well trained.
No, you're not well trained. Devin Schoening. I am the, as Claire said, K-12 instructional technology something or other at Council Bluffs Schools in Council Bluffs, Iowa. My lovely wife and both my daughters are hanging out on the couch tonight watching The Biggest Loser, which is the nickname they have for me as well. So yeah, glad to be here. This is gonna be fun. I'm excited for Patrick tonight, and I'm excited for all the things we have planned for the evening.
Mr. Sound Effect. We're on our A game tonight, folks. This is going to be a fantastic show.
That's right. We are back and badder than ever. Brent Catlett here from Kansas City, Mo, home of the world champions. It's not an odd year, so the San Francisco Giants didn't do it. And I'm really looking forward to the conversation with Patrick tonight. He's a stud, as far as I'm concerned, and an educational leader of epic proportions. So I have 5 children, and beautiful wife that is amazing and supports me greatly, and I'm lucky for that. And looking forward to Dads and Ed tonight.
Well, at any point, you can connect with the show. You may either tweet at us, at Dads and Ed, use the hashtag Dads and Ed, email us anytime, dadsanded@gmail.com. If you miss part of the show and we're not quite sure what you feel is more important that you would actually miss it, you can always go to dadsanded.podbean.com, or more likely, you think it's so awesome you're going to share it with somebody else, you can subscribe on iTunes by searching for Dads and Ed. We are also on the Edu Podcast Network, which those of you that have listened in the last 2 weeks already knew that, but always got to throw that in. The obvious water cooler of the weekend would be the NFL playoffs. It is the #1 sport in the nation, and we're guys, so it's kind of like almost a requirement that we have to at least have some small knowledge about it. So over the weekend, let's see, on Saturday we had Arizona with one of the more epic overtime wins that I can recall over Green Bay, and the Patriots beating the Kansas City Chiefs. Sorry, Brent.
Yep.
But you can't have a 5-minute drive when you're down by 2 scores in the fourth quarter. And so then on Sunday we had the Broncos winning over the Steelers, and you had Carolina winning over Seattle. So 2 weeks ago, in the wild card, you had all the visiting teams win. Yesterday, you have all the home teams win. It's 1 and 2 in both conferences. So recap of next week plus your predictions for next week, gentlemen. Brent, we'll start with you.
Well, first of all, I want to state that Kansas City made a heck of a run and pretty fun to watch down here in the big city. And I'm going to just make a bold prediction. Since I moved here, the Royals have been to 2 World Series and won 1. Kansas City now has been to the playoffs, so I expect them to make it back and perhaps win the Super Bowl next year. Just saying.
Wow.
Unless I move. I like Carolina all the way. I really cannot stand the Patriots. Sorry to Patrick Larkin. I think he's a Patriots fan. I just realized after I said that. Thankfully he's not on the show yet. Hopefully he's not watching. I'm kind of over them. I just would really like to see some new faces. So I hope for Carolina's sake, they've had a heck of a year. I'm kind of interested to see them make it. I'd love to see Peyton get there, but I just don't know if he's got it together to beat the Patriots next week. So I'm afraid that the Patriots go on, and I hope Carolina does, and that will be the final game, and I'm going to go with Carolina for the Super Bowl win.
That's nice. Josh mentioned earlier that threw the guy card out there and said, well, guys, we probably need to talk about this. I think of the 4 games, I may have watched a total of about 10 minutes of football all weekend. And that's not good. That's not a brag. But, I think I would go also Carolina and New England, although I'm rooting, I think, the exact opposite way. I think I'm rooting Arizona and Denver. I'd like to see Denver get there too. I'd like to see Peyton get there. But man, he looks old. Boy, does he look old.
Yep.
Amazingly old for that to have happened in the last 3 or 4 months. So I'm kind of rooting one way, and I think it's going to go the other way. But what I will say, and I think we've talked about this a little bit on here before. I was in Perry, Iowa, on Saturday night when the Packers and the Cardinals were playing that great finish. And sporting events are truly a little more fun now. Even though I was with a group of people, I was kind of interested in what in a sports Voxer group, and I was really more interested in what they were saying and what they were talking about. So I was being a little rude and listening to my Voxer group as that game was going on, and kind of not talking necessarily to the group that I was with. But it's made watching sports, I think, specifically a completely different experience for me, is having all those people that you're kind of connected with and talk about sports with.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because in past years we've had Super Bowl party house, and I was part of that conversation Saturday night, watching that game, and as I was driving today, I was thinking, well, I don't really know, you know what? I actually just realized I have to go pick up my wife during the Super Bowl. Wow.
You can see Josh's wheels turning as if, oh, you can see this on the podcast.
Well, yeah. So, damn it. Man. Well, I'm sitting here thinking, I wasn't going to have anybody over because, like Devin was saying, it's a great group, and then I'm like, well, wait, my wife's not even going to be here, and then I just realized that I'm even the one who suggested you come back at 6:30. I am the dumbest idiot. All right, never mind. Bill Little, got to give him a shout out. He gave me a hard time last week about my knowledge, the knowledge that I was dropping, and Bill Little drops in that the last time both first and second seeds made the championship was 2004. I have not fact-checked that, but I don't have any reason. Well, I have a lot of reason to believe that Bill may have made that up, but
There's a lot of reasons.
But Bill, I announced it anyway, so there you go, my friend. Yeah, if you miss the end of the Arizona game, it goes into overtime off of a Hail Mary pass from Aaron Rodgers. It was crazy. The Packers only had the ball because Arizona threw it on second down, and yes, they threw it to Larry Fitzgerald, but it was an incomplete pass, which stopped the clock, which really gave Aaron Rodgers an extra minute. So they end up tying the game. They go to overtime. First play, Larry Fitzgerald catches a pass for 75 yards. They throw it to Larry Fitzgerald on the second play, which he misses. And the third one, they give him a shuttle pass up the middle. He scores a touchdown. For someone like him, he's one of the wide receivers that you really want to root for.
Yeah.
You hardly ever hear anything bad about him. You see how well he takes care of himself. He's never negatively in the spotlight that I can think of. It was cool to see. I am a Packers fan. I root for him as much as any other NFL team, but that was a very cool end of the game.
Yeah, I thought so too, and I think that the NFL, for teams that I don't necessarily favorite team kind of being the 49ers. There's nothing to root for. I root for stories and for individuals. And I agree. The Larry Fitzgerald story and rooting for him as an individual, I'm down with. And I kind of feel the same way about Peyton. Oddly enough, kind of wanting him to have one last run. Again, I think that's more because I'm a sucker for a good story, and that makes a really good story if the guy gets up off the mat and everybody's counting him out and ends up going and winning a Super Bowl, even if it's mostly because of a defense or running game. But I'm a sucker for a good story.
I think the Denver defense has to create points on Sunday for them to win. Regardless of what the Patriots defense looks like, Denver just doesn't look good. And so I think that the Denver defense has to either score a touchdown or get a turnover deep in the Patriots' territory if they have any chance of winning. But we'll see. I mean, Tom Brady, this is his time of year, so as much as Brent dislikes it, it's just you talk about new faces. Tom Brady seems to have a new face as a wide receiver every year, and still keeps winning.
Yeah, I just keep reloading. Well, Patrick is probably. He said he's watching. He messaged me, so I'm thinking, oh boy, I hope he didn't catch that very.
Hopefully, he'll still join us here in a couple minutes.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
watching anymore.
Probably out now. Thanks.
Good work, Brent.
We got a lot of questions to just ask each other then.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
We get the answers, so
That's
ask
a
each
good
other those questions, but I'm not sure the answer's going to be worth the darn.
That's why we bring up the questions, because we need help, not because we can answer them ourselves.
Oh God, no.
Moving on. So anyway, our next show is actually in between, so we'll talk about the Super Bowl in 2 weeks, February 1st. So looking forward to that. Dad moment of the week. I don't even know where to begin. I will say, so I saw an article. I don't know if you guys saw this. I actually thought about talking about this for the water cooler about publicly how what we post on social media as parents can be publicly shaming our kids. Have you guys seen this article?
Mm-mm.
So it kind of talks about how we kind of poke fun at our kids, or people that take pictures of their kids and when they're sick or they do something or whatever. And so I've kind of been thinking about what I post on social media about my kids, and so my son starts basketball this week. I love basketball. I love golf. So does he. I wasn't good at either one of those sports. I love playing, but I'm not being picked first in either one. So we get out, and I take a picture of him at his first game, because that's what we do. I post it to Instagram, and it really made me kind of think twice about what I post. He didn't score any points. He missed 2 shots. No big deal. I mean, so what? Played great defense. But even just my wording of it, it made me pause a little bit and think about how am I communicating what I feel. He didn't have a great offensive game. It's not a secret. But how do you put that out there that in 10 years when he can go back and read it, that he's not offended or embarrassed by it? And I don't know. It's one of those things I just think so much in society we overanalyze and we overthink so much, and it's either got to be one to way into the spectrum or the other end of the spectrum. There's no middle ground anymore. But it was kind of an interesting read and made me kind of think some of the things that I post about him or any of the kids. But anyway, so we started basketball this week. That would be the dad part. But Devin.
Yeah, I think mine will be maybe less about my kids in a dad moment, but I had one of those moments tonight, I guess, when I had to meet with a player and her mother tonight, dealing with some issues that she was having at school and in a classroom, and she had to sit out a game or two, and it kind of reminded me how important it is for us to be good role models for our kids. Not that this parent wasn't. This mom was holding her kid accountable and everything, but the girl kind of had decided to quit basketball because of this incident. And really what the mom ended up saying is, well, her quitting was really 90% me. I was kind of the one that did that, and it just kind of, I don't know, it irked me a little bit that, made me think about what impact we have on kids, and kind of getting them to do some of those things. And not only that, but she was, not necessarily in agreement with some punishment, and she was kind of saying that missing that game impacts more than her daughter. It impacts families, and this mom who had taken time off work or whatever to get to that game. And I guess kind of what I told the mom was, if my daughter were in that situation and she had done something disrespectful or inappropriate or whatever it is, that she would still be at that game and she would be supporting her teammates and her team, and I, as the parent, would be there as well. I'd be at that game cheering on the rest of those kids and that team. And it was a very good conversation the mom and I had, but it just reminded me how much how much influence we have as parents, and how tough it is sometimes, even though we might be frustrated or might not agree with something, to continue to back, whether it's a coach or a teacher or someone else, to make sure those good things continue to happen. So my moment was really one about meeting with a parent and a kid tonight, and kind of making me think about the interactions I have with my own kids.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to shout out Rob Lindquist, Matt Miller, and Bill Little, all watching the show tonight live. Appreciate you guys being there. And Rob immediately is checking his latest Facebook post, thanks to Josh's advice, which is good. I'm going to go with, for my dad's moment, it snowed here in Kansas City just a little bit, just enough to get the sleds out. And my wife bought some new pants. We went to the store one day when we had some time away from the kids, when my aunt came to visit and watch the kids recently over the Christmas break, holiday break. And so anyway, she bought pants. And so actually, as crazy as this kind of sounds, the moment for me was watching her go out with the kids, and I stayed in with our youngest, who was napping at the time, and kind of monitoring that, of course. And it was just a cool moment to have her sharing that, because oftentimes it's me that's taking them out and doing that, which is good, and I love it. But it was kind of fun to see her take on that role with them, and so I'm going to roll with that as my dad's moment of the week.
Yeah, that's it's funny you bring that up about the sledding. We haven't had like a ton of snow. We had some over break. And this is one of the first years that actually the kids went out kind of more by themselves. And all of a sudden it was like a day or two later, and I'm like, man, I didn't even get out with them. I totally missed it. Like I felt bad. Like they went out and had fun, but it was also right around the holidays, and so it was kind of like, well, we also had all these new toys and everything. So I need to get out there as well and get my snow pants dirty. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to be joined by Patrick Larkin. Patrick, we're not sure if we told you what you were getting into, like by being on the show, but we appreciate you coming anyway.
Oh,
wow! Apparently, someone was listening. For those of you that are listening on the podcast, if you recall, about 10 minutes ago, Brent made a comment about a certain Northeastern team that. Patrick just happened to have a New England Patriots hat nearby.
Been wearing it all weekend.
I saw this post on Facebook of this guy from New England Patriots fan talking about how bad Alex Smith was, and they had Tom Brady, and anyway, it was good stuff. Actually, I had a good chuckle over it, but I know all my Kansas City friends were hoping that he would be putting his foot in his mouth. But.
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't really love about the Boston fans. I understand why people dislike us nationally, but it's a lot of fun to be a Boston sports fan, We're pretty spoiled, that's for sure. And I hate when it comes to trash talking, because I don't know what other people felt like, but I was nervous going into that game. I thought the Alex Smith had a great season, playoffs, and luckily it just came down to clock management, which we saw in the Super Bowl when Andy Reid coached the Eagles. So,
what do you have? And maybe this is more of like a favorite child type of thing, but do you have a favorite Boston franchise?
I'm a bigger baseball. Baseball's been my favorite sport since I was a little kid, so it would have to be the Red Sox. But
That's acceptable.
it's hard not to say Celtics when you grew up in the midst of the Larry Bird era, So, but definitely the Red Sox #1, and then it was pretty awesome to see Larry Bird in his prime, growing up as a kid.
Cool, Patrick. Well, thanks for being with us. Can you start by just tell us a little bit about yourself and your kind of educational journey, your family, just kind of a little bit about you to get started here.
Sure. I am currently the assistant superintendent at Burlington Public Schools in Burlington, Massachusetts. In year 4, I was the high school principal in Burlington for 5 years. That was my second principal's job. I was a principal at another suburban place. Well, actually, I think it's considered an urban school, Peabody, Massachusetts. And prior to that, I was an assistant principal for 7 years. And actually, the school I grew up in was where I got my first teaching job and my first administrative job. And I live in Rowley, Massachusetts with my wife, and we have 6 kids. I have 3 biological kids and 3 stepkids, and 3 boys, 3 girls. Go from a senior in high school, a junior in high school, a sophomore in high school, then an 8th grader, a 6th grader, and a 4th grader. So we're pretty busy. We keep ourselves busy, that's for sure.
That's awesome. He's got my 5 beat. I think that's the first guest that's ever beat my starting 5.
I think so. Yeah.
As I recall. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah,
Patrick, it's great to see you. I appreciated. I've been learning from you for a long time, so I was excited to have you on our podcast. And I reached out to you a while back about going 1-to-1 and in our district doing some research, and you were one of the first people I thought of. And as I recall, you guys are 1-to-1 iPad. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we went 1-to-1 the year after the iPads came out. So it was the first iPad was the iPad 2, the one with the first one with the camera. And there weren't a lot of device options at that point. We were looking at different netbooks. There was no Chromebook at this time, so I certainly understand that is a great option for a lot of people. But the iPad was far and away our #1 choice, and we're still there at this point. We're K-12 now in our district.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit. I just feel like you guys have really been blazing ground out there on several fronts, and this is off of our charts, but I noticed, is it Jennifer? I just lost her last name.
Yeah, Jen Sheffer.
Yeah, Sheffer. I was going to say Sheffer. She got accepted to the Google Certified Innovator Academy.
Yes, she did.
I know she's on your guys' team, so that's a big deal.
Yeah, we're very excited. We're so lucky to get people like Jen. We've had quality people. Andy Marcinek, who's now working in D.C. for the Office of Ed Tech, was our first help desk person, and then when he left, we were able to pull Jen in from. She wasn't too far away in New Hampshire, and she's taken it to another level, put her own spin on it, and really doing some great things. And we're proud of her for getting into that Google event out in California, I think, at the end of February. So she's excited about that. She certainly earned it. She's a hard worker.
Definitely. Can you talk a little bit about just some of the positives and/or flip side of it, if you're seeing that with the 1-to-1 piece with your iPads?
Sure. I mean, the positive thing is, we're not talking about the iPads as much anymore. It's like it's not a big deal. They're just, you have them. Like, it's not, the first couple of years, no other schools were 1-to-1 around us, and the iPads were relatively new. So it was always a lot of discussion around that, like, how do I use it? What do I do? What's the latest app that we should have? So we've gotten away from a lot of that, and it's just being used in classrooms like any other resource. But I think the problem we run into is we're like, what's next? Like, what's the next step for us? Where are we? Some people use the SAMR model. So where are we? With the usage in classrooms across the board, are we still just doing basic substitution in most classrooms, or are we climbing up the SAMR model with that? And what are we going to do next? I think personally, especially middle school and high school, we need to make a big push into starting to publish our own resources instead of, we haven't bought any new textbooks, but we're getting some questions from a couple of departments here and there, and I'm pretty adamant that we're not going to spend that kind of money on textbooks. I think, our staff should be putting together these resources. We have the tools to do it, but it's a big change for people that have been teaching for, any amount of time, and you've usually been handed this package of textbooks was like that we just follow the textbook, and now it's a big deal. What am I going to follow? So we're kind of trying to get over that hump at this point. That's the big thing for us. So again, mentioned Andy Marcinek earlier. We're excited about the Go Open stuff that's happening, and we're hoping that we can jump on that. We're sending a team out to Skywalker Ranch at the end of February. That's part of a small group of districts from around the country that's going to be doing some Go Open work, and we're really hoping to gain some momentum there.
I appreciate that segue that you just had for us into the open educational resources. Talk a little bit about what those are and where you see that fitting in schools.
Yeah, we talk about myself, and I'm really lucky to work with this guy. Dennis Filano is our Director of Instructional Technology, and he's like the guy behind the scenes that really is responsible for so much of what happens in Burlington. But open educational resources are free resources that are that are out there that have been created by who knows who and other educators. There's OER Commons. There's all kinds of places we can look. CK12 Flexbooks. There's all kinds of different ways we can do this type of work. But before I get into that too much, I think it's important for us because, as I mentioned, educators, and we always talk about what we're trying to do with kids, and we want our kids to be creating more and not consuming more. And I think this is really our big opportunity for our teachers to start to model what we're looking for, because in the process of making these resources, creating these resources, there's going to be all kinds of learning they have to do in regards to, where are they finding stuff, how are they citing things. They'll be modeling a lot of what we want our kids to do. Sorry, did I freeze, or is that on my end or your end?
Just your picture. We can still hear you.
Okay, great. So this is a perfect opportunity for the adults to really take hold and model for the kids what we want to be happening, and to collaborate with people around the world. Again, I still think in schools we don't collaborate with the person next door, but in the next classroom, and now we have a chance to collaborate with other schools, other educators around the world, depending on what subject area we're in. So I've been doing a lot of research, trying to find entry points for us that make sense for different people depending on where they're at. We're trying to partner with a couple of local school districts to start doing some of this work in a couple subject areas. But I've been reading about stuff in higher ed where people have gotten together, and over a 5-day period they've created a textbook. Like, you get together, you have the right people in the room, you map out the work that's going to be done. And so I think what I'd like to see happen this summer is for us to pull some people together. We have to pick the subject area where it's going to go the best, and we create something, get a group of people together. Is it an algebra textbook? I don't know. But there's so many resources out there for us to pull from. And I've been trying to think about a blog post that I want to write on this topic, and it's like, when I'm talking to teachers about this, I feel like, we've badmouthed the Common Core. This isn't a comment about the Common Core, but say any standards. How many times have we heard educators say, and I'm not bashing educators, I've been one of them saying it, but these standards were created by a group of people with no teacher input. Mm-hmm. So, okay, that happened. So now we're taking these textbooks that meet these standards that we didn't like because somebody else created them, and we're just using these textbooks that probably some of these same people helped create. We know the standards. We know what good instructional materials look like. Here's our opportunity for us to create the stuff that we're complaining about. And so again, I just think it's an overwhelming task. I think, I'd like to see us break it down and start to do some of this work. And it can't be done alone. That's not the purpose of it. So that's where we're at with open educational resources. I mean, I could certainly talk all night about this. I mean, another question we ask ourselves is, what is this going to look like? Because, you know, we always in education, I think, we want it to look like one thing. Oh, it's going to look like this. But really, when it comes to developing, I think the word Dennis and I have been using is collections. I'm going to create a collection for, again, Algebra 1. Is that going to be some type of digital textbook that I create? Is it going to be an iTunes course? I mean, there's so many different places we can do this work. And I don't think we all have to do it the same way either. I think the important thing is that we do it in a format that can be accessible on any device. Hopefully we can create it somewhere where somebody else can take some of it and repurpose it however they want to repurpose it. So I think it's an exciting time. I just think we need if we can get a small group of people, people in every state doing this type of work, start to show exemplars. Again, I'm not saying it's easy, but I think it can be easier than some people think if we get the right people in the room to do this work. And when I say the room, I don't mean the same physical space, of course.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, as you talk about all the opportunities that that technology affords us, whether it's the resources that we have access to, the people we have access to, the things that we can create and make and find and collect, and all those things. How important is the role of leadership in doing that? So whether that's at the building level, whether that's at kind of a central office level, for whether that's meaning that you're going to push people to do things differently, or sometimes even just allowing them to do things a little differently. How important? Because I know you've written about this and you've talked about this. How important is leadership in making those things happen?
I think it's really important because I think we need to, first of all, give people permission to do this. We have to let them know that we don't expect this is going to be done perfectly the first time through, or the second time through, or the third time through. Just that we want to start to iterate. This is going to be an ongoing process, and it's going to be done differently. I've heard a lot of leaders that get in the way, or they don't give permission, or they don't let people know that this is a serious thing, like we're really doing this. We just talk around the perimeter of things. But I think we have to make a commitment, and one of the commitments we've made, with in Burlington is with the technology. One of the reasons I think we've moved forward is because we have embedded PD. We have these mobile learning coaches that are available for teachers whenever they need them to go into their classrooms. So when we talk about open educational resources, whatever subject area we decide we're going to do this first, or whichever departments are going to be impacted, I think we have to have embedded support for them in the schools. Like if they have a free period and they want to do some work on this, I think we need to have somebody there to work with them when they need it. I don't think it's something that can be done in isolation. So I think those types of support, like it's one thing to say we're going to do it and give people permission, but then what resources are we going to put in place to support them as they do this work, which is difficult. And I think embedded professional development is the most important thing, to have a staff member dedicated or part of somebody's day dedicated, just so teachers know when they're going to be able to work on this, because it's not something they're going to be able to work on top of everything else they have to do.
Right.
Very good. Hey, Patrick, I know one of the things, to change the subject just a little bit, when I visited with you about the one-to-one piece, you guys have been doing kind of a student-led help desk for quite a while, and I'd love for you to share with our listeners, a little bit about what that entails and how that got going, and just, what you see from that program.
Yeah, so the one thing I was concerned about, again, as we started this, and we were going to have, just at the high school, when we started one-to-one, we had over 1,000 devices, and I was worried about, a student or a teacher saying, like, it's not working, I don't know where to go, I don't know, nobody can help me fix this right now. So to take away that problem of not having a place to go, we decided we needed a student help desk. And so basically we put it as a course, and if anybody's interested, they can reach out to me or reach out to Jen Sheffer, jsheffer@bpsk12.org. They can reach out to her. And there's a curriculum in place. It's a course in our program of studies, so it meets all day long. If people need some support to use the device, to use an app, the the kids are writing app reviews. They go into classrooms to support teachers doing things. They help us put together all kinds of tutorials online for students, parents, and teachers. So I think a student-run help desk, again, plus it gives ownership to the kids, and it started to right off the bat from day one. We wanted the teachers to be clear that we don't expect them to know everything. There's no way you can know everything. Nobody knows it all when it comes to this technology stuff. It's changing every day, right? There's a new thing, a new update, you name it. So we wanted people in place that could help the teachers, and we kind of flipped the switch here, and it's students teaching teachers, or even better, when you walk into a classroom, you don't know, which one's doing the learning. So that was one of the neat things as we walked around, is to see teachers being taught by students how to do something with the device, and then going back and sharing it with their class. So it's kind of a no-brainer, especially, and we didn't need it. We had enough resources committed, but if you're a school that's struggling for support resources, again, the kids are the best place to go. The iPad basically for the kids was a big iPod. It was not a big deal to them. It was intimidating to teachers, but it wasn't intimidating to the kids at all. And we grew up in an era, a lot of the adults in the schools, where don't press the wrong button, don't do this, you might break the technology. And our kids have grown up in a world where they never worried about breaking anything. So again, they're the best resource we have. So I'm happy that we're tapping into them.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that. We have a very similar in both of our high schools. Student tech support that do about 95% of all fixes. We have Chromebooks in about 7,000 of them in district, and they do all of the repair. And not only that, but the thing they're getting from that help desk setting that I think is even better is just that kind of like real life business model almost. They're the first line when teachers or kids come in. They're the first ones kind of giving them that customer service and learning how to do that, and then they're going on and doing all the fix. So yeah, I always love hearing other people talk about that, because it's just been one of the biggest successes, kind of an ancillary success of the one-to-one in our district as well.
Yeah, and it's been neat. Like, our kids have ended up being beta testers for different things. Different companies have come in. There's an app that was out of England where these two robots battle in an arena, and our kids were beta testers, and their names ended up getting on the credits for this. There's been a number of companies. What's the big one? Socrative started off in Burlington, Socrative, however you say it. Which was bought by Mastery Connect in the last year, but those guys came out. Educanon is another good resource that's done some testing in Burlington. There's a lab, an incubator, a tech incubator in Boston called Learn Launch, where a lot of the groups will come out, and we open our doors and say, let the kids try it out. They'll tell you if this is going to work in a classroom. They'll give you feedback that's going to be useful. So as you alluded to, Devin, it's a great opportunity for these kids to be collaborating with folks to problem solve on the fly, and some of these kids have ended up that have gotten out of the help desk have gone on to do some neat things in college already. In fact, from the first group of kids that graduated, we just hired one back as part of our tech team in Burlington, so that's pretty neat to see.
Yeah, that's always cool.
Hey, I want to give a quick shout out to Brandon Tim, who's listening in tonight. I know when you're talking textbooks and things, he tweeted us about. He's a bit nervous because his department is supposed to be getting new textbooks next year, and he doesn't use one. How will that process work? So I know he's a new listener, and we're excited to have him on board.
So again, I think unfortunately in a lot of places we've kind of looked at the curriculum and the textbook as the same thing, which it's not. Like, the textbook supports the curriculum. Like, we have standards and benchmarks and different learning outcomes we're looking to achieve, and the textbook hopefully is one way you can, walk the kids towards these learning outcomes. But as we all know, I don't think there's any textbook somebody's going to hand you and you say, this is perfect, this is everything I need. That's why we go out and get supplemental resources. So I hopefully this department's supportive of them, but I mean, he's probably the best resource they have to Brandon to show them some of the other things that are out there that are so much more engaging. And again, how many kids get excited about I almost use an expletive, but the textbook, you know? How many kids get excited about that? I've never seen a kid get excited about any textbook. And some of these other things, I think, again, can be a little bit more engaging. And I've even seen some upper-level classes where the seniors are actually creating some resources for the next year's class to use. I think you get to a upper-level senior class, why couldn't they be writing some chapters or creating some resources? See, I want to say chapters. I don't even think it should look like a book, but they can be creating some learning resources for the next group that's going to come through. So, yeah, that's a good question. I think that's one a lot of people have. Like, they want to get this textbook. And just to go back to the textbook issue with us, I think the cost for like a math textbook at the middle school that we were looking at, and our middle school is about 800 kids, it was like $99,000. And I mean, what could we do with that money? What could we do with half of that money to, you know, pay our teachers to get trained so we never have to spend that money again on a textbook, to get them comfortable with the process, the workflow of what's going to go into creating their own resources? I think it's a much better investment in the long run.
I love the cage bust. I'm taking my doctorate right now, Patrick, and we had this class, and we read this book called Cage Busting Leadership. And when you say that to me, it was the first thought that hit my head was, you know, this idea of, like, instead of always doing it this one way that it's been done, maybe try something different.
Yeah, and in the end, if it doesn't work, I think we're back to the crappy place we were, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we won't be back there. That's the bottom line. So.
Right.
Hey, one question that we like to ask everyone who swings by, and we're very appreciative that you took time out for this today. But you know, you mentioned you've got kids in a wide range of grade levels. How has being a parent impacted you as an educator, and also vice versa? How has being an educator impacted how you parent?
That's a good question. I mean, I think obviously, to become a parent is probably the most important thing that ever happened to me, and opened up sensitivities I never knew I had. So honestly, like, you know, obviously we care about kids to do what we do, but there's something that just goes to a higher level when you have your own kids and you start to see what they're going through. And I think it's just a deeper sense of empathy for what students are going through and things that can happen. Again, divorce. I'm part of a divorced family, and so like there's a lot of kids that we deal with that are going through those types of things. So just the level of empathy, I think, has made me probably a much better educator. And flipping it around, the same thing. I think as time went on, you guys, some of you are in leadership positions, or maybe you all are, or have been. It's like just, I think, learning how to balance and be a better parent, and not being so focused on work all the time. At some points you're like, oh, I got to do this, and you realize, Daddy, like, shut the computer off, like those types of things. And so to really pick my spots, like try to get up early in the morning if I'm going to do something, or do it later in the evening, which just works out because it's 9:30 here when we started. So just trying to pick your spots and not miss anything, and realize that the stuff my kids are going through, like, again, my senior in high school, like, he's on the basketball team. Like, there's not going to be more basketball games after this year for me to go watch. So that's a priority, but my job's going to be there next year. Not that I'm not going to work, but you get what I'm saying. Like, I think I've learned balance as time has gone on. I've gotten a little bit older. Hopefully, at least I tell myself I have.
We talk about balance all the time. It's always a constant struggle.
So I was listening to you about you were talking about you were at a game of one of your kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what to say, and like, I've been reading this stuff. This Changing the Game project is the name of it. It's like there's a blog and there's a Facebook page, and just about parents and sports. And like, one takeaway I had, because again, my youngest is a senior, like, now that my oldest is a senior, rather, my youngest is a fourth grader, I'm so much better as a coach and a parent for the fourth grader, and hopefully for all of them. But the five most important words to say to your kid after a game is, "I love watching you play," and that's it. And this is from John O'Sullivan, is the guy that runs that project. But most kids will quit sports by the time they're 13, and they did some research on this, on why these kids quit, and the thing they hate the most about sports as teenagers is the ride home. The ride home from the game. So I try to share that. I'm involved with the recreation where my kids are and doing some coaching, and just like, it goes by so fast. I can see it with my son, like I said, who's a senior, how fast it all went by, and just like sit back and enjoy it, because none of them are going to the major leagues or getting Division I scholarships. Just enjoy it. It's a great learning opportunity if we keep it in perspective as parents and don't ruin it for them. There's a great Google this YouTube commercial sometime. It's like Canadian youth hockey golf course or something. There's this guy's starting to line up a putt, and all of a sudden his kid comes out and starts yelling at him like, "Dad, keep your back straight. Keep your shoulders stiff, bend your knees." Like, just it's a good point. Like, we see these parents at games, and I love watching you play. It's awesome. It's the most fun to see your kids out there doing this stuff, and so that's it. Sorry to digress on that one, but
no, you're fine, because I'm going to keep digressing.
Okay.
Do you watch or read the Players Tribune?
A little bit. I've read a few of the articles, but I don't follow it religiously now.
Being a Bo Sox fan, I didn't know if you were allowed to, since Jeter started it.
Oh yeah, I'm allowed to.
Okay.
I love Jeter. Jeter, I'm not one of those people. Jeter is a class act. I'm a big fan of his.
There was an article a while back by a hockey player, and I forget who it was, but he talked exactly about what you're saying about the ride home, and how he was scared about what his dad was going to say. His dad would abuse him physically, verbally, and all of this. And it's the change in the game. I mean, it'd be the reason for it, really.
I didn't see that one, but I've certainly seen instances. My daughter, fourth graders, likes to play soccer, so she's playing a lot of soccer right now, and going to the games. There's a couple parents, like I said to my wife, I'd like $1 for every time they say their kid's name, and it's always like something corrective or critical. It's like, and I've seen one of the girls in tears on the bench when she comes off, and the girl's a good little player, but she's one I'm like, she's not going to be playing when she's 13. She's 9 years old now, and it can't be fun.
I'll have to find that. I've got their hockey thing up. I'll have to look for it. It was a while back, but anyway, we'll get back on track now.
All right.
Patrick, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know you're on the East Coast. We have a few other things to do. Do you have time to stick around, or you need to get going?
No, I'm fine.
All right, we're going to have an app or site of the week, a Twitter follow, and an upcoming event. So, Patrick, you are welcome. If you can figure any of those out in a short amount of time, you're welcome to chime in at any point.
All right.
Who we got? Devin, you're up first.
Sure, I'm going to share it's a tool that some of my social studies teachers have been using here recently. I think it's called Zoom In. It's kind of from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I think, but it's a series of high school social studies lessons that have all kinds of great primary resources built in and some activities built in. You create a class on there, and I'll share the link here in just a second. But you create a class on there, and you can share these lessons to your class, kind of with a code, kind of similar to Google Classroom, and then you can go and see kind of all the work the kids are doing in there. So even the teacher that I have that kind of started using this is one who isn't very techy, and kind of found it and just loved the resources that were there, and the ability to kind of have some writing activities built in that are related directly to standards or tied directly to standards. So Zoom In is there aren't a ton of lessons there. I can't remember how many there are, maybe 6 topics, something like that. But lots of good stuff there, and a good way to get kids interacting with some primary resources and with some multimedia, and then to have it kind of all in one place in this teacher dashboard. So Zoom In is the name of it, and I'll kind of share the link out to that.
Two things real quick. Devin found the golf hockey video and has posted that, retweeted it from the Dads and Ed account. And Patrick O'Sullivan, Black and Blue, was the Players Tribune link I was trying to find, and that's posted on the Dads and Ed account too. Man, look at us! This is like the fastest research we've ever done in a very, probably ever, actually. Let's be honest.
Yeah, we typically don't do any. Is the thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, so
Pretty
when
well
you set
done
the
stepped our game up. See what having a good guest on will do?
Oh, it's amazing. All right, my Twitter follow for the week is not dad related at all, but Patrick, you'll like this. I'll actually be disappointed if you're not following it already. MLB Cathedrals. Oh, he's muted. Anyway, you got that one?
I'm not following it. I'm sorry. I
Oh.
will right now.
MLB Cathedrals will post like old pictures of different. I just posted it to the Dad's on Ed account and the hashtag. It does like old pictures of different ballparks. It's just fantastic. I mean, it's like history and pictures or whatever, but it's focused on Major League Baseball stadiums. So it's very cool. Very cool Twitter account.
Nice.
Patrick, while you're unmuted, any app or site you want to throw out or person to follow on Twitter?
I want to throw out always the Burlington bhshelpdesk.com. Those guys actually, guys and girls, just did a post last week called "There's an app for that," which they highlighted different apps by subject area. There's some videos there you can watch. Again, just one example of some of the stuff they do. And you mentioned earlier Jen, so I'll give her a shout out. And, at JL Sheffer, and she's a great follow for folks that are looking to find ed tech resources. She's a Google expert, as we mentioned already, so she's definitely a good follow.
Brent.
Yes, coming event. I'm really excited. I'm going to attend my first Ed Camp St. Louis on February 6th, coming up on the other side of the great state of Missouri here that I live in now, the Show Me State. And so I'm looking forward to that, and I've actually encouraged the Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Schools in my district to attend with me, Dr. Mack, as I call him, is McLaughlin, technically speaking. But anyway, I'm really excited to get him there from our leadership team and have him experience a full-on Ed Camp. And as our listeners know, we are pro Ed Camp here on the show, and so just looking forward to that trip, thinking about Iowa, can't wait for Omaha. At Liberty here in Missouri, just north of KC, hosts one right around the March time. So a lot of great Ed Camps coming up, and always enjoy getting out to those and collaborating and learning with other educators. So February 6th in St. Louis, if you can make it.
We do mention Ed Camps every now and then, periodically.
Yeah.
Pretty much hourly during March.
Yeah.
March.
And February and January. All right, Patrick? What's next on your agenda? When you look at your calendar, where are you headed? What are you doing? What worldly travels are you up to?
I'm hanging low, through February, early March. Like I said, my son's a senior, so there's a lot of basketball games coming up, and I definitely turned down a couple opportunities, so I wouldn't miss any senior year games for him.
Mm-hmm.
We're hosting a Google Summit in Burlington in March, and Ed Camp Boston's coming up as well, which is sold out today. Also in March. So those are I think the two biggest things coming up on my agenda at this point. I'm actually just excited to have our team go out to Skywalker Ranch, like I mentioned earlier. So we'll have a lot to share after that, hopefully, to get other people on board, and hopefully we can create some momentum and maybe even work with some of your guys, your teachers, on some of that stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned That was very nice of you to say that you're going to hang out around there while your son's playing basketball. I scheduled myself teaching a class 4 hours away on my daughter's next birthday, so I'm expecting that Dad of the Year trophy to probably not make it again.
Nice.
Oh well. Devin, who from CB do we need to give a shout out to tonight?
That's right. So my district spotlight person tonight is his name is Nick Davis. Nick is a middle school instructional coach, but also teaches science. And Nick is a great guy. He's innovative and passionate, and kind of just wants what's best for kids. And he's always trying to think about what's the next best thing he can do, next best opportunity he can give kids, and does just an amazing job at one of our middle schools. So Nick Davis at Slapshot99. He's a Canadian. It's part of the Slapshot thing. So he moved here, but from Canada. So Nick Davis at Slapshot99 is my district spotlight follow tonight.
Well done. I just tweeted out the LC Girls basketball account, LC Girls BB. They're a great example. You're looking for like what activities should be posting. They do some score updates. They do the motivational stuff. But what was really cool, so today we didn't have school. Teachers didn't have schools. Kids weren't there, obviously. So they, as a team, and Devin does this too. Devin, I think we've talked about this on the show before about how you've had your girls over, your team over. So our girls went to the Open Door mission today as a team, and just helped out around their packaging boxes, and really, we didn't talk a lot about Martin Luther King tonight. Today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and they went out and did something for other people. Which I thought was very cool. So there's a few pictures from today on there, and they do the family dinners, like Devin has talked about in the past with his girls. So very cool, very cool to see them share out what it is that's going on. And it doesn't hurt that they're a darn good basketball team too. So
Yes, they are.
Brent.
Yes, my Dad's Ed District Spotlight is going to go to a fellow by the name of Bobby McCutcheon. He is the principal of an elementary school here in my district, Randall Elementary School, the Randall Bears, and I just tweeted off. He goes by Fight, the number 4, Mizzou, as in Missouri, but they go by Mizzou down here. Don't hold that against him, guys. Like, great principal. And he's no Patrick M. Larkin or D. Schoening or J_Allen or Catlett 1. But I'm really proud of this guy. He's just awesome, and he's just became principal there. He was an assistant at one of our middle schools, so it's his first opportunity to lead a building by himself as the head guy. But what is really cool is he started a Genius Hour 3rd through 5th grade, and he's got several sections of that as a building. Fairly high Title I type school, just a lot of rough situations there and family situations and things. So really cool to see him attempting to really inspire kids to get excited about coming to school and their projects that they're going to create. And so last week I went over there to support him on Friday as they started this venture, and they're going to do it every Friday from here out for the rest of the school year. So I just really appreciate him trying to innovate and do some cool things at his building with his kids, and just step outside that box and try something different and create. And I especially noticed it with the teachers. It was really interesting for me to watch that with the teachers. So just really think he's doing an awesome job and want to shout him out.
Very cool. Patrick, we talked about Jen. Anyone else that you can think of off the top of your head, since we're putting you on the spot for that we need to know about up in Burlington?
Oh, yeah. I mentioned Dennis Villano earlier. He's at D. Villano Jr. Let me throw it on I'll throw it on the hashtag. He's definitely, and again, we have a pretty active district hashtag BPS chat, which is, again, definitely, you can find a lot of our teachers there.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. And again, Patrick, thanks for taking time out of your evening tonight. We are going to be back on February 1st. We have Joe Sanfilippo. Everybody's got to get their Crickets gear on and get ready to celebrate the Crickets and figure out why in the world you would have a high school that has a nickname of Crickets. But anyway, you'll have to tune in 2 weeks to figure that out. We are back on February 1st. Patrick, again, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. And we'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, Patrick.